Welcome, 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 everyone. Already, you're going to hear a difference in the sound quality today. And I know those of you who are on the coach cam, you're looking at the background, you're saying, Dustin, what the heck's up? Something's missing. Well, I'll tell you what's missing. It's called my mic. No excuses. Went to the conference, getting ready to go to the conference, and took my mic home with me so I could get it to the conference, and left it there this morning. So anyway, apologies. You've got the tinny voice today, but I think we'll get through it just fine. Trust me, it's worth it for the interview that we have coming up. I want to pause here, of course, and remind you that we are sponsored by three great companies that have been with us from the very beginning. Of course, DataMaster is one of them. DataMaster will save you 30 to 60 minutes per report. That's right, 30 to 60 minutes per report. Check them out by going to DataMaster. freetrial.com/coach. Once again, it's datamasters.freetrial.com/coach. We are, of course, sponsored by Alamode. Alamode is the software that I use to become more efficient, more effective at what I do as an appraiser. I want to spend time dealing with software, folks. I want to spend time appraising, and Alamode allows me to do that. It will help you to do the same thing. Alamode.com is where you need to go, alamode.com, or call them at 800-ALAMODE. Finally, we are sponsored by OREP Insurance. OREP, of course, is the E&O that I use. Why? Because I have a choice. And the E&O that I carry is important to me. It's important that I talk to a real person on the other side of the line. OREP allows me to do that. Go to orep.org for more information. Again, it's orep.org for more information. All right, folks, we've got another Appraiser Stories for you today, but this one's going to be a little bit different and a little bit more fun, if you ask me. Normally we talk to, shall we say, seasoned veterans, as the case may be, when it comes to appraisers. A lot of them have been in business for more than just a short period of time, and we're able to talk about their experiences over the years and what brought them into this business and that kind of a thing. But we kind of skip over that whole beginning chapter, if you will, really digging into why someone would become an appraiser. What is involved in becoming an appraiser? A lot of you like me, that was 20 plus years ago. And it was a different world back then. My training happened long distance. I really was not next to my mentor when it came to training as an appraiser, because back then you could do that. The supervisor didn't have to be present for the inspections. My father was my supervisor. He lived about 300 miles away, and he would every once in a while come down, but for the most part, I was out on my own getting help from him over email and over phone calls. It was just a different world back then. As you know, things have changed, and I think it's exciting to talk to current trainees a little bit about why they jumped into this business and what their experience has been, and how things have changed over the years. So I brought on Mr. Jesse Ledbetter, who is a friend of mine. Maybe we can explain that in just a little bit. But Jesse, welcome to the program.
Hey, Dustin, thanks.
Really appreciate you joining us. Those who are on the coach cam will recognize those ominous boxes in the background, Jesse, as being an antiquated way of doing appraisal work that I know you guys don't do anymore. But moving from paper to paperless sometimes takes a period of time before you can dispose of those old records. So,
if I'm not mistaken, that stack right there is the burn pile that we're just waiting for the fire.
Love it. Yeah, statute of limitations gets done on that, and that's a bonfire waiting to happen.
Yes, it is.
So Jesse, if you don't mind, I'm going to set this up by maybe giving the listeners a little bit of background as to how you and I know each other. Your supervisor, who's we'll just use her first name, Brianne, has been in my mastermind, my Dream Team mastermind, from the very first day. She has been in this program for, going on 4 years, every quarter, traveling to Salt Lake and meeting with a group of people, great appraisers, successful appraisers, helping each other to become greater and more successful than they already are. And back then, boy, Brianne had a very different, shall we say, different appraisal business model than she does today. And so tell me where you come in this whole thing. Again, 4 years ago, she was kind of a single person entity. She may have had, I think like she did have at least one assistant at that time, but boy, she's really grown into kind of an appraisal firm, and I know you fit into that story somewhere.
Yeah, so I believe she's been on her own now for 7 years, and she was operating out of the basement for a while and out of a bedroom for a while. I think you're right. I think it is about that 4-year mark that she began to take on an assistant and so on. as she has expanded her business, she had hired a trainee before. Actually, when she did her interview with you, she had just ended her relationship with the trainee. He had moved on to something else. And I remember listening very early on, first couple of months with Brienne, and listening to that interview. And she said, I don't know if I'm ever going to do a trainee again. It was so much work. It was so
never
difficult.
say never.
I don't know if I'm ever going to do it. So I remember listening to that and was like, well, okay.
I guess I need to find another job, right?
Exactly. I came in, the office at that time had herself, a full-time secretary, part-time data entry. And I was going through the process of a career change from nonprofit ministry work to something. I actually ended up sending a resume to her by accident. I knew her before, but I didn't know I was applying to work with her. But I was looking at some real estate options, some insurance options. Real estate had been a kind of a side interest of mine, but not something that I had experience in, interested in, but not experienced in. And so she, a little surprised at seeing my resume on her desk. We had a casual, knew each other for a year and a half or so prior to that, and said, your resume came in this morning. Let's chat. Oh, okay. Whoops. I guess you got one of my 20 resumes that I blasted out yesterday.
Okay, so that's interesting. So you weren't specifically saying, hey, I want to be an appraiser. Here's an opening. I'm going to apply and go back to my ministry by getting on my knees and praying that I would get the job. You were basically looking for a job, any job.
I was casting a really wide net, and there were a few fields that I had interest in, and real estate was one of them.
Okay, but why appraiser? Why appraiser, Jesse?
When I got to know Brienne, when I sat down in those first couple of meetings, got to know a little bit about what it was that she was doing, realized that I had known an appraiser maybe 5 years prior, and had been interested in it then, heard more about the profession from her. Actually took the Omnia profile that Brienne does with any new hire.
Yep.
And she sat
she
down.
She got that from the Dream Team, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm going to take credit for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Dream Team. She raves about the Dream Team, and after having sat in on a session, I understand why. It's been really good stuff. She sat down with the Omnia results and sits down and says, "Well, Jesse, it's kind of interesting. I guess if you're not going to be a good appraiser, neither am I, because our Omnias are pretty much mirrors of one another." I said, "Oh, okay." And then I came to really enjoy the profession on the job. Really, I needed a job. I needed a way to provide for 3 kids. I needed a way to keep my head above water, and it just so happened that as I was doing that, I also really came to enjoy the profession, the nature of the work. I've always kind of had more of that analytical side.
Sure.
So
let me just make sure I understand what you're saying. So when you say you were casting a wide net, you were kind of interested in real estate, but not necessarily knowing much or being specific to appraisal until you got to know Brienne through her ad looking for some type of an appraiser. But the key here is you actually knew Brienne prior to this in a different capacity, and not even really understanding she and you that you were applying for this same gig that she had up. Is that right? I mean, it just sounds crazy, really.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it was nuts. I didn't. This was never on my long-term, short-term career path. It just so happened I had a 4-year degree and I had the qualifications necessary and I had an analytical mind for it. But yeah, it wasn't a planned thing.
Okay, so let me follow up on something that you said earlier, and this might be well, I'll just ask the question. We can decide what kind of a question it is later. You said I needed something to provide for my 3 kids, and I know my listeners pretty well, and I know that there's a lot of them screaming at their earbuds right now, saying, "What did he just say? He wants to provide for his 3 kids, and he's getting into appraisal?"
Sure. Sure.
So what are your thoughts there? Because again, there's a lot of appraisers right now, or I should say trainees, who are a little discouraged thinking, do I even have a future here?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can understand that. And I'm a part of enough Facebook online appraisal groups that I've seen that kind of frustration, um, and can understand it. You know, at the end of the day, if you are working towards a quality product in a reasonable time frame, and are willing to cast a wide net as far as clients are concerned, I think the work is there. It is for us. Our office is doing 70, 75 a month.
Love it.
And we're turning down work.
Right.
Or there's a lot of work that we bid that we don't get, that if we really needed to, we could, probably bid lower and more, but yeah.
You don't need it.
You don't need it. And we're in rural Pennsylvania. We're not in, Los Angeles. We're not in a hot real estate market. So I can't speak for every market area, and I'm definitely not going to pretend that I understand the complexities of the appraisal industry and customary and reasonable and so on and so on. But for us in this area, it's feasible. I think that Brienne's involvement in the mastermind, she would say, has been an enormous benefit to her in expanding her business, her ability to produce quality, competent reports with greater regularity and greater volume. And so that makes it possible for our office to have 2 trainees and a full-time administrator and a part-time data entry person, in addition to our full-time appraiser. So it's working. It can work. I think, like so many things, it comes down to, I think, in part, organization. How do you organize the business? Not just the appraisal, but the appraisal business and its organization.
Well, and kudos to Brienne. She, from the very beginning of her participation in the Dream Team Mastermind, came with an attitude that was very visionary. But as you pointed out, she wears the CEO hat first. She's a business owner first and an appraiser second. And I think that's really key to anyone's growth. So, you may, based on your speech here, I think you recognize this, but I just to point it out and just make it completely blunt, you're in a very unique situation being with Brienne than you might be with any other appraiser out there who kind of looks at this business from a technician standpoint.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, if you are an individual who is purely in it to analyze properties, and to, I'm just going to focus on valuation of properties. I don't want to work on managing other people and, coming up with a more efficient business model. If that's not you, I would never be able to work for that person. So, it comes down to, there are going to be some people who that's the way they want to go. They're wired to go that way, and they're going to go that way.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about your situation, your geography, if you will. You said you're in rural Pennsylvania. I've been to rural Pennsylvania. Rolling hills, Amish horse-drawn carriages every once in a while. I know the area that you're talking about. Tell us a little bit about what appraising in that type of atmosphere is like.
Sure. So we just the other day re-expanded into a market area that she had pulled back from for a period of time, Cambria County. We put 300 miles on in a day.
Wow.
We were on the road all day long. We were doing drive-by, exterior-only appraisals, and then doing the research, going through our comps, and then driving all of our comps and anything that we thought that we might need. Mm-hmm. So 35 pictures plus 3 drive-bys later, we finally got back into town after the sun had set. It was a beautiful fall day in Cambria County in the middle of the mountains. So that, is a redeeming quality, but it's a long day. Now, not every day is like that. Sure. There are days where we're more local, we're in more built up areas. But yeah, it varies. Some of our areas are more like the outskirts of Pittsburgh, dense. Properties are rather uniform. Comp searches are a dream. They're everywhere. You're picking them like apples off a tree. There's other days you're shaking the tree hoping something falls. But yeah, we've got interesting variation between areas here.
Yeah. Well, from one rural appraiser to another, I hear you. I'm going to one up you though.
Yeah.
Last week, one day I put 575 miles on my car for 4 inspections.
Wow.
Now that was a new record for me. That's not normal, like you said, but man, it's a crazy area that we work. Speaking of crazy things that we encounter, Jesse, you've only been this a short time. Tell us a little bit of your timing. In other words, when did you come on with Brianne? How long have you been there? What are you working this full time? Is this a part-time gig for you? Tell us a little bit about your experience so far as an appraiser.
Sure. So I've been working for her for a little over a year now. As soon as I got in with her, got to know the process, started going through my pre-trainee classes, grinded all of those out in I think about a month, took all the tests, just really kind of hit the ground running. I've been working full time the entire time, sometimes working more than 40.
Yeah.
There were days where I was working some late days just trying to earn my keep, which I think took a little while. And I think that if somebody's going to take on a training, I think that's the honest truth of it. There has to be an understanding that if you're going to take on someone who has little to no appraisal experience, there's gonna be a little time where you're not earning money off of that person yet. And I think for Brianne, we've had frank conversations where that was probably 2 months with me before I really started to earn my keep. Now today, she would say you've really started to add to the business. So hopefully I've made up the deficit. But yeah, I've been doing it for about a year. Going through the classes at the same time in the evenings, doing, preparing. So my hope is that by the end of next summer, I'll be able to sit for my tests and be full-fledged, real deal.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm glad you brought that up because I think a lot of my listeners are on the other end of the earbuds saying, that's great for Brianne. I get it. She's in rural Pennsylvania. She's got a kind of a unique business model, but why should I hire a trainee? And I'm glad you pointed out the fact that, a lot of times individuals, we get in this mindset, and I don't think it's a fair mindset. We get in this mindset that training takes, 2 to 3 years from start to finish. And as soon as it starts to pay off, then they leave, they become their own appraiser, they hang out their own shingle, and they become my competition. Why should I go through that? But as you pointed out, you can, as a trainee, you can start providing benefit and payback, as you put it, very early on in the training process.
Yeah, I would say, honestly, I started to add value to the business after about 2 months. Before that, I wasn't. No. Before that, I was on the receiving end of it. But with competency, there are just certain parts of the job that a trainee can do with close supervision that free up the hands of the appraiser to do more. And as exampled by the fact that since my hire, I believe that October and November of 2016 were our largest months to date, followed by March and April of 2017, again being consecutive largest months to date as far as volume and as far as income goes. And I was hired in mid-June. So I'm not saying that I'm the reason for those increases by any stretch of the imagination, but you can start to, take on more. You can start to, see an actual real benefit.
Right, exactly. And in my discussions with Brianne and the mastermind group tell me that she is a businesswoman. She puts that hat on and she knows how to leverage, if you will. And I don't mean that disparaging at all, Jesse. We have to utilize those that we hire in order to make back not just what we're putting into it, but the point here is growth.
Absolutely.
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit and ask you a question that you did not experience personally, but I think it's unique coming from your perspective, if you don't mind. And that is, a lot of my listeners are wannabe appraisers, not necessarily even trainees, other than they may have taken the classes, as you talked about, that you got through in the first year, or
Yeah.
first month rather. But their biggest challenge is finding a mentor. And I know your situation is a little bit unique in the sense that, that kind of fell into your lap.
Sure.
What advice would you give to somebody who's maybe listening to this, who wants to be an appraiser, who have, sent out multiple resumes, maybe even knocked on doors and talked to individuals that are appraisers and said, hey, pick me, I want to be hired. And they're just getting the door slammed in their face over and over and over again. Appraisers saying, why would I want to hire a trainee? What is your advice to that potential wannabe trainee appraiser?
Yeah, so I'll speak from a bit of a shared experience. Our other trainee has recently come on, and he spent a year under another appraiser who did not sign his experience logs.
Ouch.
He just wasn't getting credit for the experience that he was gaining. And so I guess one of the initial things I would say is be picky about who it is that you're training under. There is an element of, well, I just want to get my, whatever the number of hours is for your state, 2,500 for us. I just want to get my 2,500 hours. I just need somebody to sign the piece of paper.
Right.
Which is a pretty short-sighted view. And so, what I would say is be picky about who it is. Are they putting out quality work? Are they putting out something that you want to emulate? Because you're going to be emulating it for thousands of hours, because that's what you're going to do. Now, to a degree, you're not going to know what quality work looks like when you're right out of the gate. You've just taken your classes. You may not have the ability to know what quality work looks like. I've been incredibly blessed to be able to, sit under somebody who I look at, the work that we put out, that she puts out, and I'm like, I want to put out work of this quality. So be picky. As far as, finding that person, at the same time, cast a wide net as far as who you're willing to talk to, I guess, and then be specific about who you want to work with. There are a lot of appraisers. Maybe not all of them are hiring all of the time, but, getting in with those folks, putting interest in, finding out. Like you said, my experience is somewhat limited in this regard.
Mm-hmm. Well, convince me though, let's just hypothetically put you in a situation where you are face to face with another appraiser. You want to be an appraiser, and you say, hey, hire me. And that person says, I'm sorry, I'm not in this business to lose money. Convince me otherwise.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a great perspective. So in that perspective, you're selling yourself. You're selling the fact that you can, with time and experience, actually increase their volume, increase their volume and profit margins. I think I didn't have to do it, but I can see the possibility that there are some appraisers who, if you went to and said, listen, I'll work for you for 2 months, minimum wage or less, maybe.
Wow.
I'm willing to prove myself for a period of time. Now, that's hard to do if you've got 3 kids and a family and so on and so forth. But if you're dealing with a decent person who's willing to see that there's actual value on the other side of this training process, and it's not going to take forever, and they see that you're willing to invest in it as much as you're asking them to invest in it, I wonder if that's not a convincing factor that says, okay, we'll do a 2-month trial, we'll do a 1-month trial, we'll do something. You show me that you've not only got the wherewithal to stick with it, but that at the end of that time, I'm actually beginning to see that, you know what, I'm not working evenings anymore. I'm not working Saturdays anymore. My life is easier because they're here. Okay, now let's start talking about some kind of hourly rate, or, however that person's going to do a split.
Love it. I love it. Prove your worth and do it on your dime. And they might be more open to it. I think that was great advice. And any individual who is looking to become a trainee, you heard it here first, folks. That was gold. Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate that.
Cool.
So about an hour. You've been in this business about an hour. About a
Yeah.
year you've been in this business.
Right.
You're still very wet behind the ears.
Yep.
But tell me, have you had any type of a disturbing or scary experience that you'd like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. We've encountered a number of weird properties in a year. Part of being in rural Pennsylvania is you end up hearing the banjos from time to time in the woods. We REOs are always interesting, and so we got to one property, realized that it was unsecured. As a general policy, this is pretty early on. Brienne's general policy is if it's unsecured, I'm not just walking in. I want it cleared first. So we put a call in to the local police department, said, hey, we're appraisers. We're doing something on a bank-owned property. Can you come out and take a look through? Police, again, rural Pennsylvania? Sure. We were just running a speed trap anyway. We'll run over.
Right.
And so we get 2 state cops, actually, who show up and they walk through this thing. We find out after the fact that this property hasn't been tended to in 4 years.
Oh my word.
They walk through this property. They come back out. I'm watching the flashlight in the windows as they're going through. They come back out and they said, there's nobody in there, but you're not going in there, are you? And we're like, yeah, we kind of have to. He's like, I'm not happy that I had to go in there. And we go in and there's just mold everywhere. And, the ceiling fans have, completely bent to the floor because of the wetness in the building. So, we get a lot of those.
Wow.
But,
I tell you, REOs are always the stories that come up, aren't they?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
sometimes I wonder why we do this.
Said, I don't want to go in there. That's just like
that's okay, hilarious.
This is a different animal.
Speaking of hilarious, any funny experience that you might have had that you want to share?
Yeah, we run into some weird ones from time to time. There was the well in the living room. That was a classic.
Whoa, hold on. I know this story, but my listeners don't.
Yeah. So we were in we came to a 4,000 square foot 1-bedroom house with a 3,000 square foot garage. And if that wasn't weird enough, as we're going through the living room, there's a 4 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot hole in the floor, which we realized that when they built an addition on, decided they didn't want to move the well, so they just built the addition around it, and so the well was there. But that one got topped actually in the last few weeks when we found the septic system inside the house.
Oh, come on, Jesse. A well is one thing. A septic, are you serious?
We had the septic inside of an unfinished space within the dwelling.
Oh,
I thought the well did it, but
I can't even imagine, my friend. I can't even imagine. But I'll tell you one thing I can imagine, and that is improving the efficiencies and effectiveness of your appraisal office. Start first, folks, with DataMaster. DataMaster will save you 30 to 60 minutes report. How does it, I make this claim all the time. How does that work? Here's the point, folks. If you're not using DataMaster, you are hand typing or paying someone to hand type your subject information, your MC sheet, the numbers at the top of the grid, and here's the key, folks, the comps themselves. Folks, if you are doing that yourself or you're paying someone, I don't know, $10, $12, $15 an hour to do that, stop it. You need to get DataMaster. DataMaster will save you so much time, so much effort, and it will improve the quality of your reports because you're not going to have the human error of fat fingering something that could be important down the road. DataMaster will take the data exactly like it is and put it directly in your report. If you've not checked them out, do it now. DataMasterFreeTrial.com/coach. Once again, DataMasterFreeTrial.com/coach. And speaking of doing it now, are you on a la mode? Are you using a la mode? That's kind of sounded like, are you on crack? You might be on crack if you're not into a la mode. A la mode is the opportunity for you to save time, to improve the quality of your reports. Why? Because the tools that come with a la mode are amazing. Let me just give you one example. The side-by-side comps grid is absolutely phenomenal. You can look at all of your comparables all at once just by scrolling, not going to a different page, but right there, right in front of you. And if you've got a big screen, you can see them all without scrolling. That's what a la mode can do for you, among other things. Check them out right now. Go to alamode.com or Mode. Finally, folks, we are sponsored by OREP Insurance. I switched over to OREP, as you know, a couple years ago, and every renewal has been super, super easy. I've dealt with real people who really care about me and who really will care about you. Folks, if you are with any other E&O provider, you need to check out OREP. How do you do it? Go to orep.org. That's OREP.org. If you check him out on the website, you can pick up the phone. I promise you, if you call during business hours, that's Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 Pacific, I promise you, you will get a live person who will talk to you, who will answer your questions, not pass you off to someone else. These people know what they're talking about, and they're easy, easy, easy to work with. If you've not checked them out, please do so. Go to orep.org. Once again, it's OREP.org. All right, folks, we are back. We're talking with Jesse Ledbetter. He is an appraiser trainee in the great state of Pennsylvania. And Jesse, welcome back to the program.
Hey, thanks.
I really appreciate you joining me. As you know, it's been super interesting to talk to you, even though I know your mentor very, very well through my mastermind group. I have had an opportunity to meet you on more than one occasion, which has been a blessing, to use a word that you used earlier. To me, to be able to just get to know you on a personal basis. You're a fun guy to be around, you know, an interesting situation with you and your mentor. I don't know if you want to get into it or not, but I think it's a fun story. Anything you want to say on that side?
Yeah. So prior to a year ago, we had probably had a half a dozen conversations, all pretty, hey, how you doing sort of a thing.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I accidentally send a resume and get hired.
Whoops.
You know, hey, there you go. And then, you know, ended up getting locked in a car 25 hours a week because, you know, trainees got to be, the mentor's got to be present with the trainee at every inspection, and rightfully so, especially in the early hours. And so for 25 hours a week, we're driving all over rural Pennsylvania and then talking about appraisals and listening to this podcast you may have heard of, the Appraiser Coach. We were listening to that on a regular basis. And somewhere in the midst of all of that, you know, we laughed a lot. We talked a lot. We shared about our hopes, dreams, aspirations, things of that nature. And I think we both kind of looked at each other after a few X number of, you know, 1,000 hours and said, hey, we haven't driven each other crazy yet. There might be something here. And so, yeah, we began dating. And actually just this past summer, I asked for her hand in marriage, and she, like a good appraiser, said, well, how much is the ring worth? No.
That's awesome.
We went out to the Grand Canyon, asked her, and so yeah, we've got wedding plans.
I love it, man. Congratulations. That is super fun.
I appreciate that.
That is super fun. So Jesse, tell me a little bit about what do you, if I were to say what's your biggest failure in life, in business, I hope you don't mind me asking a personal question like that. What would be your answer to that?
Wow. Boy. Where do I start? Biggest failures. You know, I think in the appraisal office, I've done some humdingers that I was glad I had a mentor to say, hey, no, come back on that one from a appraisal perspective. You know, in life, there was a season of my life where I did not have my priorities straight. I just didn't. I was chasing success. I was chasing approval. I was chasing a lot of the wrong stuff while I had 3 amazing children. And I didn't invest the time in my relationship with them. And so if I had to nail it down as far as a big failure of my life, that's it. Getting my priorities out of whack.
Wow.
And chasing the wrong stuff.
Well, it takes a big man to admit that. I think we all get in that mode at some point in our life, and I appreciate you bringing it back to reality in your own life, but also bringing it up here, which I think reminds all of us that are husbands, fathers, wives, mothers, the importance of family. It truly, in this life, I believe, truly comes down to that, the relationships that we have, not the business. That's a big part of it. You know, you gotta pay the bills, but in the end, it's the time you invest with your family. Absolutely.
And I think that, if we look at it from the perspective of the reason that we want to have a successful business is not to chase prestige, to chase, the accumulation of stuff, but rather, you know what, I want to have a decent business that provides decently so that I can have all of the opportunities that I want with my wife, my husband, my children, my family, my friends, because if you keep chasing those other types of goals, it's just the receding horizon. You're going to die of exhaustion before you ever get there. But when we set those realistic goals, and really when we sit down with our business models, or our, what it is that we're going to try and do in whatever profession, and say, you know what, I just want a realistic goal of enough, just honest and truly enough that I can enjoy my family, my friends. It's contentment. In the other life, it's torture.
Yeah.
Just torture.
I hear you. Jesse, you've been doing this long enough for me to ask a helpful tip that you could give to other appraisers.
Sure. Yeah.
All right.
I've never done the paper route, but I know appraisers who have done the appraiser route. I would say if you're not coming up to date with some kind of technology to use to digitize this stuff, you're doing twice the work. And again, you can view it one of two ways. Oh, there's just that young buck and his technology. Okay. All right. I get it. Or you can save a lot of time that you would much rather be with your kids.
And money.
Yeah. if you hop on board with some of these things, I think I can't fathom trying to do it any other way.
Yeah.
Any other way than that.
Go paperless, folks.
Yeah, you got it. You absolutely have to. Don't do that anymore.
Those of you who are just listening, he's pointing behind him to the numerous boxes stacked against the wall. So, all right, Jesse, lightning round. You ready?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Inside out or outside in?
Outside in.
Tape, roller, or laser?
Laser.
Tablet, computer, or clipboard and pen?
Using my cell phone, iPhone 6S.
Okay, and appraisal software?
A la mode.
Spit it out. Favorite thing to do when you're not appraising?
Oh, man. Hanging with my kids, reading movies.
I love it. Okay, cool. And your one goal for this year, Jesse?
My one goal for the next calendar year would be getting my license, finishing that up.
Love it. Jesse, you've been an inspiration, both on a personal level. I appreciate the friendship that you and I share. But today, I think that you gave some great information for potential trainees and also for potential hirees. In other words, for potential employers of trainees. I think that, more and more we're seeing people exit the appraisal profession and not very many coming in. And it worries me. I think if everybody had the attitude that you had, we wouldn't have that issue. Thank you, Jesse.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
Yes, indeed. See you.
Folks, if you are interested in, we've talked a little bit about the Dream Team. There are a couple spots open. In fact, in the Dream Team that Brianna is a part of in Salt Lake, we do have a couple seats open right now. A couple of them are closed right now. Chicago's closed. DC is closed. I think we've got a spot or two open in Dallas. There may be something left open in Vegas. If you're interested in being part of a group of appraisers who assist one another in becoming successful appraisers, you'll want to check out my Dream Team. Go to theappraisercoach.com and check out memberships to find out more. Send me an email if you have any questions. Would love to talk to you and help you to get to that next level. Thanks again, Jesse Ledbetter, for joining us today. Thank you, folks, you listeners. Have a great day, and we'll catch you next time.